Tom, today we're going to be talking about things that are very prominent in the news, and that is about unidentified anomalous phenomena. What does your theory, your virtual reality, and consciousness theory have to say about all of these aspects of this collective experience, individual experience in these sightings?
Well, the very short answer to that is I believe it is these sightings, and I don't doubt that the sightings are real. We talk about the sighting, and the airplane pilot says, "Yeah, he saw something, and it was going very fast, and then it did a 90-degree turn." Of course, no airplane or aircraft can do 90-degree turns. They have to take a much longer sweep to make a big sweeping turn. But so these things are reported. They have been reported for about as long as anybody's been flying airplanes. Things like this and many other things are reported that are anomalous behavior. Anomalous behavior just means not normal, outside of our ability to explain. It almost is the same sort of word as paranormal. That just means beyond normal, outside of normal. Well, perhaps there's a connection there. I think what we used to call UFOs, because they were mostly seen in the air. But now, why limit them to the air? Why not have them on the ground and in the water and everywhere besides the air? So anyhow, I believe that its consciousness is doing this, is providing this data in people's data streams to help crack their mind open a bit so that they think that perhaps there is more going on in their reality. Their reality has more depth than just the singular view that the materialist scientists have. So it's a way of making people look for a bigger picture. Oh, here's something that doesn't act right. It doesn't belong in our set of normal things. There's a thing that goes twice the speed of sound and does 90-degree turns, or instantly disappears, or some other sort of thing that is just not normal. So we say, we don't have the technology to do things like that. So it must be aliens. But what they're not taking into consideration is it could be the consciousness system. This is a virtual reality rendered by the larger consciousness system for the evolution of its pieces, individuated units of consciousness. So when you understand that, you realize that reality is virtual. Your body is an avatar. Your awareness, your consciousness, what's thinking and what's analyzing is consciousness. You're a player, a consciousness player playing a human avatar. All right, so that's my position on the nature of reality. So that may seem a little strange to people, but that actually solves all the outstanding paradoxes. They're solved when you look at the logical consequences of that idea. But I'm just going to state it here. So if that being the case, everybody's reality is a data stream that's being sent to them in this virtual reality game. If your data stream has a UFO in it, or a sighting, or a craft that moves in a way that it shouldn't be able to move, or a whole bunch of little green men crawl out of a saucer in your backyard, knock on your door, and leave burn marks where their craft sat down, and they can even give you an object or two, or you have any other kind of encounter. Most of these things are consciousness created. The reason for them has to do with opening our minds. Now, there's other kind of conscious things that are alien associated. People being beamed up and having things done to them. beamed back down, or just other connections or interactions with aliens. Like I say, they land in your backyard. Okay, and all of these are real, but they're no more real than the rest of real. They're real like a rock is real or a tree's real. All of these things, rocks and trees, are just information in a data stream. Now, if a group of people are watching this saucer land in the backyard, then all these people are getting that in their data stream. If only one person sees it, then that's the only person getting that in their data stream. There's all kinds of reasons the system would have, let's say, even for the thing of alien abduction, right? You end up in some craft someplace. Well, these are likely fear tests that they're getting from the system, and they probably are, if they don't get there out of a dream, they probably get there out of body or some other way that they end up in this spaceship. So these are experiences of consciousness. Some of them are fear-related. You get them because you're fearful. Some of them people get, and it makes them fearful. Some people get them, and it opens their mind to a larger reality. Sometimes, like I say, they're fear tests. People who are new and out of body, the first dozen times or so they go out of body, often they run into monsters and all kinds of scary things. That's a fear test. That's to see how you react to threat. And the reason the system wants to do fear tests, because if you are a fearful person and you get frightened by big monsters with sharp teeth, then you don't want to really explore in out of body, because what's in your mind, what's inside of you, will pop out and be manifested in this out of body reality. So if you have fear in there, then it's going to manifest in terms of frightening things. So in that case, you shouldn't go out of body, and the system can kind of make that less likely to happen, can suppress that for you. The system doesn't want you to take on more fear. It wants you to get rid of the fear that you have. So these things that are unexplainable, we tend to just immediately jump to the conclusion, oh, it must be aliens, because if we can't do it, then it has to be aliens doing it. But there's another answer, and that is consciousness system is doing it. So I prefer that last answer, consciousness system is doing it. And I can tell you why. If you talk to the people who've been following UFOs for the last 20 years or 30 years, not somebody that just jumped into it and was amazed by an article they read on the internet, but people who've really been close to it ever since Blue Book, Operation Blue Book, which was the first time that the government said, we're going to take it seriously, these UFOs. We're going to investigate them and see what's going on. But that was a long time ago. That's back in the 60s, maybe. I don't know how far back Blue Book goes, but it's pretty old. Well, for the people who've been around that a lot, and the people who talk to aliens, you might say channel aliens, they mostly tell a very similar story. And that is that we, the humans, just haven't grown up enough yet. We're not quite ready for the big time. We have to grow up some more. We need to get our acts together. We're too warlike. We're too full of fear. We have too much fighting and stealing and corruption and all of that sort of stuff. So we need to mature a bit before we can move on to the membership in the intergalactic circle or whatever they're from. And these ideas are very much the same kind of ideas that channelers that channel the knowledgeable, wise beings from other dimensions. It's another source, like Seth. Seth speaks, but Jane Roberts, those kinds of channelers. The message, though in different terms with a different setting, is very much the same. You folks are not very grown up. You need to be kinder to each other. You need to be more thoughtful and caring, and so on. You're still act like a bunch of animals down there. So we're just hanging out here watching your growth, and we sometimes send people down to help you out. So that sort of a thing. There's a group over in Turkey. I can't really remember their name, but they have collected something like 20 or 30 volumes of channeling aliens. It's a big institution. It's the same message. It's about peace and love and growing up and that sort of thing. Now, people who are more fearful are going to get a fearful message. So people who are more fearful are people who not only get a fearful message, but they like to speak about fearful things. The things they say tend to be fearful. You find them everywhere. They're at work and they talk about, the company's going to have a merger and we're all going to get fired. There's going to be a big storm come over us a couple of weeks from now and we're all going to die. They have their whole idea of conversation is negativity, horrible things that are going to happen. And they tend to believe in conspiracies and so on, because it's always the negative that enthralls them, that attracts their attention. So that the government is keeping their knowledge of aliens secret, possibly, but unlikely. Why is it unlikely? I've been in the government. I've worked for the government. I've had top secret clearances and special code clearances above top secret. And I'll tell you, the government has a really hard time keeping a secret. They are not good at keeping secrets. People leave the government. People talk. People write books. Information gets out. Information gets stolen. It's just real hard to keep a secret. Now, the stuff I had was classified by DOD. These were official government military secrets. And they go to a lot of trouble to keep secrets. Everybody has a background check. Everybody gets that background check every so many years. You have safes to lock everything up. You get security briefings all the time about people who are trying to steal your secrets. And still the secrets get out. So it's difficult to keep secrets. And it's even more difficult to keep secrets for a long period of time. People retire. People move on. People on their deathbed want to talk about the things they wanted to say but could never do it, whatever. So this has been going on, the government hiding secrets from 1950 something, when supposedly at Roswell, and the government covered up an alien encounter. I have a hard time with the government being that good at secrets. For administration to administration to administration, through Democrats and Republicans and so on, all kinds of people with all sorts of ideas coming through this, the last, 50 years or so, and nobody really spills the beans in a big way. Oh, yes, you'll get a retired colonel who'll come say he saw this or he saw that. But that's not real solid proof. That doesn't stand up in, say, a court of science. I'm a scientist, that's not science. That's hearsay. You get somebody to say something, it's like, where's the proof? Where's the science? Let's meet the alien. Bring the alien out here and let's us interview him. And that's harder proof. So scientists tend to be skeptical and they tend to want proof. And Proof is not, this is what I saw. That's anecdotal. That's proof. That doesn't work. You can't produce a new theory in physics by saying, and this is what I saw. That's not where it is. Anyway, I don't believe that there's aliens out there who want to harm us, who want to have us for lunch, who plan to take us over, all this sort of thing. I think that's just fear talking. Fearful people make up fearful stories, and they like nothing more than to cause other people to be fearful too.
Sure.
So
Well,
I take a
Tom,
very positive attitude.
you would, because, Tom, you have what people are calling aliens are other realities that we discussed. You've discussed a lot of times that you have visited these other realities, that they are simply data streams of other physical matter realities or non-physical matter realities. And wouldn't you call the inhabitants of those realities aliens, alien to our reality? Is that your
Well,
definition?
if you want to play with the words like that, yes, then there may be people from other reality frames who walk around here. They don't come here in spaceships. They don't come here in vehicles. They don't have big eyes and pointy heads or anything like that. They look exactly like us, because I've gone to other reality frames, and when you go into another reality frame, you can't do that on your own. You can't force your way into that frame. This is a virtual reality. You have to be rendered into it. So the system has to agree with you changing a reality frame like that. So I get the system to put me in to the data stream. So now I'm real, I'm physical in that reality now. And the system always makes me look exactly like the people who live there, because they tell me, don't make a mess, don't create a scene. We'll let you get in there and look around, but you need to be unobserved when you enter, unobserved when you leave, and not leave any big questions behind. So, yes, but then we wouldn't be able to tell those aliens when we looked at them. They would just be just like us. But yes, they could be from other reality systems, a few. And there's not going to be many. But they don't fly airplanes that turn sharp corners. They don't do anything like that. They're just kind of visitors trying to understand the nature of reality. And the system shows them around to various realities. That's the way it worked with me. So that's a thing, true. Now, in your mind, you are a consciousness, you're a piece of consciousness. Okay, you are mind. That's what consciousness is. It's mind. Okay, it's awareness with a choice. And you can make that choice to be in some other reality. That means some other data stream. So you're not getting the data stream that defines the Earth's universe. He describes some other universe. And you will find other beings out there in this reality. But that's a different thing. I wouldn't call those aliens. That's inside the larger consciousness system. There's other reality frames there. For an instance, when you dream at night, that's another reality frame that you're interacting in. All these reality frames give you opportunities to make choices. And when you make those choices, you evolve or de-evolve the quality of your consciousness. So that's true of your dreams as well. It's true in daydreams, much less night dreams. You get to make choices, and in those choices, you evolve or de-evolve. So all these realities are equally real. They're just information. Reality is information based. Even a lot of scientists will tell you that reality is information based. I mean, other scientists besides Tom Campbell can tell you that. So that's true. Now we're talking about strange things, aircraft that turn on a dime or don't make any noise. They're silent, or they flash lights on and off and go straight up and straight down like helicopters, but there's no moving parts. It doesn't look like anything moves. So yes, there's all kinds of evidence of that. The dent in the ground, the burnt grass, the this, the that. Sure. But that's just information in a data stream. So all of these things tend to be consciousness related. It's a consciousness thing.
The actual physical evidence was one of the questions, and you answered that. They're
It's easy to put
finding
actual physical evidence here. It's just data in the data stream. That is
the
it.
same way that physical things are brought into this
Yeah,
reality.
exactly. There are trees and rocks in this reality. They're physical things, and they're part of the data stream. It's a virtual reality. So if you want to put a spaceship here, well, it's just put that in the virtual reality, and there it is. And if you want people to come out of it, well, there they are too. All this gets rendered by the rendering engine that creates the virtual reality. So the physical evidence is physical evidence. We call it physical evidence. It's really virtual physical evidence. It's just information, but we see it and interact with it as it being physical things that take up space, have weight. All the things that we call physical turn out to be information that gets sent to us. Just like, we are avatars. Think of your avatar, think of your elf. From the avatar's point of view, they live in a physical reality. Your elf can't just walk through trees, walk through doors, can't flap his arms and fly. There's rules, there's things he can do, things that he can't do. The elf thinks his reality is physical. Right? We think our reality is physical. It's the same thing. We're avatars. Our reality seems very physical to us. We can't flap our arms and fly. We can't walk through doors. We have to open doors with doorknobs. So it's a similar sort of thing. Although our physical reality is not programmed, it's evolved. It's an evolved reality, not a programmed reality. So it's a lot more detailed. It's got millions times more detail and structure to it than a programmed reality could ever have, because it evolved from a rule set and a set of initial conditions. And then that's the big digital bang. All happened in a computer. So that's Tom Campbell's view of reality. So Tom Campbell's view of aliens in this reality was changed by consideration of the Fermi Paradox. The Fermi Paradox was a calculation that says, where are they? We live in a kind of a middle-aged part of the universe. There's some of the universe that's newer than us, but there's a lot of the universe that's older than us. And by 1 billion years, maybe 2 billion years, older than us. So if that part of the universe did what our part of the universe did, which was produce us, then there should be people who we call aliens at other places. And they should be 1 or 2 billion years ahead of us in technology, because their universe is 1 or 2 billion years older than ours. So if it happened here, why wouldn't it happen there? And if that's the case, given people the rate at which they procreate, the rate at which they run out of resources, the rate they'd have to migrate and move on, and given that they couldn't go faster than the speed of light, or that they couldn't go faster even than 9/10 of the speed of light with their machines, that was a limit, they should have been through our neighborhood long time ago, just by the pressure of their own population pressures, using up resources pressures. You need to move on after a while. You get too many people and not enough resources. So resources are finite. Eventually, you live on a planet, you're going to use up that planet's resources. So in any case, so they should be here. And everything that's here in this universe has to use the same periodic chart that we do. Aliens don't have different periodic charts to use. They've got the same elements, the same things that we have. It's not that they don't produce electromagnetic radiation. We have everything that's alive produces some electromagnetic radiation. That's what we call our EEG, our thought waves, that come out to get measured. Well, a raccoon has thought waves too. Everything, a lot of things do. That happens when lightning strikes. Lots of electromagnetic fields get flashed around in very high intensities. So E&M is everywhere. It's hard to have those sorts of things and not leave any footprints, not leave any tracks. It's hard to have been through here, moved on, and not have a single track left or a single colony or a single anything. Just sneaking around, being invisible, snatching up people, that kind of thing. That doesn't really compute. And the way I see it is, people would say, but yeah, you've got all those suns, trillions and trillions of suns. Surely there's other inhabitants in this universe with all that stuff, all those potential and all that possibility. Because this is a virtual reality, none of that exists. None of that exists. If a human isn't looking at it, it's not rendered. Consciousness is fundamental. It's the only thing that really exists. Everything else is just information, thought. So if that's the case, then there's one other thing to consider, and that is that if this is an entropy reduction trainer for pieces of consciousness, then how many seats do you need? Well, all things, all systems have this one thing in common. If you scale them up, sometimes they'll get better, scale them up more, even better, but you'll get to a point where you scale them up anymore and they're not better because the extra that you've scaled up creates extra, what do we call it? Extra resources, consumes extra resources, consumes extra stuff that you have to supply. So pretty soon, more is worse, not better. So if you had this planet and you say, okay, we got 1 billion people here. Well, wouldn't 2 billion be better? Sure, we could do more things, populate more countries. What about 3 billion? What about 10 billion? What about right now we're at 9 billion? What about 20 billion? What about 100 billion? No, not so good. We way long ago passed the point where it started getting worse, right? There's a point where it's, all right, 1 billion or 100 or 1,000. Yeah, more is better, more is better. To a certain point, and now more is worse, more is worse. So there's some sweet point where you've got about the right number of population, the right number of seats in your simulation. This is a virtual reality, serves as a training experience for consciousness to evolve more quickly because there's things here that cause us to make important choices, moral choices, ethical choices, significant choices, and we interact with each other. Things I do affect you, and things you do affect other people, and all this is interactive. So this is an important place to be because here's where you grow up. Here's where the rubber meets the road with our choices. So how many seats does the consciousness system need in this trainer? 9 billion? 9 billion and one? I think 9 billion is probably enough. I think 9 billion, or maybe 10 billion, or maybe 15 billion. I think that would be enough because pretty soon we're going to outstrip the carrying capacity of the Earth. So there's a part where the system says no more seats. Okay, now it has a bunch of pieces of consciousness that want to come here and experience this place as the player, play the avatars. Now, how many individuated units of consciousness does it have? Could you have another 10 billion in some other reality system? Would you have 10 billion in some other planet in this reality system, in our universe, and maybe another and another and another? I mean, how many billions of seats does it need in this trainer? Well, I'd say no, that it doesn't need all of that, that it's not growing any better the system doesn't get that much value out of adding more and more seats. So in that case, maybe we here on this planet Earth are the whole game. No other game going on but that. And everything else is just a speck of light in our sky. And that only gets rendered when somebody looks at it. And you look with a telescope, you see other things. Well, that's rendered as long as the telescope's looking at it. Telescope turns off or looks someplace else, it's not rendered anymore. Everything's rendered as you get it. Same way in your virtual reality game, at least the newer games. Everything's rendered when you get it. No Man's Sky created a new form of programming called procedural programming. That allowed them to make this quadrillions of planets and places to go explore. And nobody knew what was on these because it was all done with probability. You see, so you can do that. So this virtual reality is like that. It only renders what the player looks at. So if there's no player looking at the sky, or the player's asleep, or it's daytime and the player can't see any stars, then there's nothing out there rendered to any player, except those that have telescopes, those that are at night looking up, and then just points of light. All has to be rendered. So it's not a great waste of space that there's this trillions of suns and must have planets that must have gotten the same kind of start we did. So there must be lots and lots of other beings out there living far, far away. And eventually their technology will get faster than light speed. And then we have all these assumptions that we make. But none of those have to be true. It could be that in this trainer, 9 billion is more than enough. The system will allow more because we still have the carrying capacity. So we haven't hit the wall yet. So that would make aliens coming from other star systems not possible. That would be the answer to the Fermi Paradox. We're alone. We're just here. And no, that's not a waste of trillions of suns. Just trillions of suns don't exist because we're not looking at them. They're never rendered.
And really,
so it's all very efficient. So if there are no aliens, then what's going on? What are these spaceships doing? What about these things that make 90-degree turns going Mach 10 or something? What's going on with this? Well, I think it was just to open our minds, let people know that reality is bigger than just this physical planet that we're on, and the little bit of the solar system that we have, that we can explore. And then there's much more, possible or potential out there, but it may just remain potential, unrendered, just possibilities. So,
it makes sense, Tom, that there is a prolific amount of this unidentified anomalous phenomena going on now. Could it be that we're at a point where we need some more eye-opening experiences taking us away from it's all about this materialist, physicalist place, and it's all about just us? There are other things that you can focus on that might be out there and that could be fearful to some. It could be interesting to some. It could open up minds. That's a choice, but that's the objective.
that's the objective. Think a bigger picture. See a bigger picture. And if the biggest picture you can get your mind to see is people who live on other planets and other star systems, if that's as much as you can pry your mind over, well, that's better than not being able to even do that. That's better than just being stuck here and this is it. It's just us. Well, and we're in a game that the meanest and strongest go to the top. So it's not a very nice game we play here. So
So now
that's
there's
my
some
take.
uncertainty as we're the
Yeah.
meanest and strongest. There's like, how do you want to handle this? How do you want to behave, right? You may
Yes,
not be.
exactly. Opens up a whole lot of other issues for people to kind of let go of their pettiness and have a bigger picture. All right, what if they're aliens? And then if they're here, are they going to help us out, or are they going to have us for lunch? And all the fearful people will know they're going to have us for lunch. And, all the optimists will know that they're here to help us grow up. And, so it gets people thinking in terms of bigger pictures. It's not just them. And that's going to be helpful. And I started saying before, but if you look at the people, the older people that are in this movement, been here a long time, you'll find the same message, which is the message of you have to grow up. You're not ready yet. You have to care more, be more loving, be more sharing and caring and considerate. You need to have more compassion. All these things are how you grow up. So because that is the identical system that the identical playbook that the larger conscious system is trying to get through all sorts of sources, right? So now the UFO is just one of those sources, like the 50 volumes that are over in Turkey are all about that same thing. Came from Pleiades or some people living in a star, and they're trying to help us grow up. It's that same tone, the same words, the same dialogues are going on that are coming from other dimensions, not this physical reality, not just in our physical universe, but outside of our physical universe in other dimensions. And the message comes back the same way. You folks aren't ready yet. You need to grow up, And if you meditate and you go inward, go through your consciousness, what you'll find there are messages that say, you folks aren't ready yet. You need to grow up. You need to be kinder and more caring. So you hear this, all of the outside of this little chunk of the universe, this place where the earth is. When you go out and run into others, wherever they happen to be, whether you call them aliens or spirits that you're channeling or whatever, it's mostly the same message. But there's always a bunch of fearful people who are along who find, oh no, let's ring the warning bells. The reptilians are going to eat us for lunch. Oh, yes, but the Greys will save us. And it's just another soap opera, right? Another thing to wring your hands over and to justify the fact that you're worried and upset and fearful. So right now, our populations are more fearful than they've ever been. It started on purpose, make people fearful, because fearful people are easy to manipulate. Who would like to manipulate us? Oh, governments would like to manipulate us. Politicians would like to manipulate us to vote for them rather than somebody else. So they want to scare you about that somebody else. Oh, if they win, all life will go to hell in a handbasket immediately, but I will fix everything. So we use fear to manipulate people. Churches use fear to get more money in the plate. Legal systems use fear to discourage crime. Fear is that one thing that puts a big handle right in the middle of your back so that somebody can reach in and grab hold of that handle and make you dance to any tune they want. So because we know that, and because now we have mass media, the last big step in mass media, of course, is the internet, where ideas and things can go to 100 million people in 20 seconds or less. We have this mass media with instant communications. So why not use it to scare people and to create dysfunction, to create chaos? Because there's a certain element in our society that likes chaos, because once there's chaos, they can profit from it. People who are chaotic are trivial to manipulate. All you have to do is offer them something to eat and drink, and they'll do whatever you say. People who are in need are trivial. So there are forces out there that like chaos. It gets rid of competitors and makes them richer. So in any case, There's lots of fearful people spinning off fearful tales of things that they experienced. And they experience it as dreams, as being snatched up out of a dream, as all kinds of things. And the system plays the game by producing a little UFO junk maybe here and there, showing people flying saucers, movies of things that in the sky, lights in the sky that fly around. It's the larger consciousness system saying, wake up, people. Stretch your mind open a little bit about something bigger than just going to work each day, watching TV, and then going to sleep. And that's all you do, think bigger thoughts.
Yes, that
Wake
makes
up.
sense. He's running out of tricks to pull out of the hat, but to get
Yes.
people to wake up. But all of this discussion on the unidentified anomalous phenomena makes sense. I know you've spoken a little bit about your perspective on aliens, but this added a little bit more to it.
That's kind of the roundup as I see it. But I'm open minded. If an alien comes down and, lands on my backyard, be glad to talk with him and, get some selfies, with the arm around an alien. I think that would be fine. So I'm very open minded to those things. But, the alien community goes through these waves. And at one point, the answers are going to be disclosed. Disclosure is coming. It's coming soon. It's going to be before the end of the year. And they kind of work up this, not really hysteria, but they work up this big deal about how the disclosure is coming. That's when the government comes clean and introduces us all to their favorite aliens and pulls out the wreckage of that old ship and that sort of thing. And disclosure's coming. And it never occurs, but it's always coming. And soon, it's going to be real soon. And I've heard that it's coming and it's going to be real soon for about 50 years now, since I've been following that sort of thing. So for 50 years, it's been coming soon. Maybe this month, maybe next week is the time we're going to get our breakthrough and get people up, makes people go out into the desert and wait for the spaceships to pick them up. But they create a lot of things like that, but it never has happened yet. And about the boy who cries wolf, and then he cries wolf again, and then he cries wolf again, and there isn't any wolf. Pretty soon you stop paying attention to that boy. You figure that he just cries wolf. So I kind of gotten like that, kind of jaded by the never ending, next week we've got disclosures coming next year, and never actually happens. I know people get very excited. They get very, twisted up on it, and they know it's going to happen. But for some reason, disclosure was put off till next week. Oh yeah, it's been put off again, it seems. And I've been in with secrecy in government, and over a 50-year, 60-year period, and even before that, people were seeing flying saucers, 100 years ago. Same thing, same reason, wake-up calls. So it all in all has not impressed me as like I should really worry about it, because it's never actually happens. It just is, all this evidence is here, and they have meetings and people come up and they give their evidence, and the evidence is strong. Yes. And the people are in the spotlight, and
Is it just something
nothing.
to bring some excitement, some hope, some new thing to talk
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. For
Perhaps
some
not all
people
that
it is.
bad, Perhaps it isn't something eye-opening, something to focus on other than
Exactly.
here and all of the chaos that's here. Let's
Yeah.
let's focus on something else. Perhaps that's the
That's part
that's
of it.
the
I think it
idea.
has that appeal. It has an appeal for fearful people, because they can always find something to be afraid of. And the more fear they the more fear they can find, then the more their own fear is justified. So
Or just as, and some
we have that.
interested, just interested and very involved, and when they focus on that, people are getting more detailed information, and it's just a way of almost an expression of looking outside of this reality, perhaps.
So now that's just Tom Campbell's opinion, which won't even buy you a cup of coffee. That's not,
I know, with all of your
and it's,
consciousness
yeah,
experience,
it's,
that's
it's not
pretty
my,
interesting.
I would say that is not my belief. It's not that I believe any of the things I told you. I
Yeah.
just see them as the highest probability.
Yes.
Okay, it's not a matter of belief. I don't think belief is the enemy. You don't want to believe anything. You don't want to believe the aliens are there or that they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to look at the evidence and collect more evidence. And from my point of view, particularly since the solution to the Fermi Paradox, and watching this disclosure time move through 50 years of almost, next week it's going to happen, and just keeps moving on. I've kind of have the attitude now that it's unlikely that we're
Yeah.
going to run into any aliens other than the ones that the larger conscious system sends us in our data streams that we can interact with and tell stories about to get everybody else excited and open their minds a little bit about there being something bigger than just the rut that we're stuck in. So that's the
Thank you. That's
story.
an
And because I
interesting
see
approach.
the consistency in the story that people get from studying the aliens about we're not grown up enough yet. Well, that's true. We're not grown up enough yet. But that story comes from everywhere. That's the story the larger consciousness is constantly spreading around. And funny, the same story that larger consciousness is trying to get across, those aliens are trying to get across that same story. And all those data streams, where do they come from? Oh, they come from the larger consciousness system. Oh, maybe there's a connection there. So you get that, and then so I pay attention to it. I listen for new things, new information, because, like I said, it's not a belief. It's just the evidence and what I've seen so far. I saw some crazy things in the sky the other night, actually, Eileen, and I was sitting out on the back deck watching the city lights come up because it's very pretty where I am. And we saw this thing come, and it did some goofy stuff. You wouldn't expect it was an airplane.
Oh,
And it
really?
just didn't move in a straight line. So we joked about it. Look, there's our flying saucer. Look at the goofy stuff it's doing. That couldn't be an airplane. And I doubt that it was an airplane. I have no idea what it is, but we
You were sent that experience just to
yeah,
get
but
ready for this talk. That's all.
yeah,
Just
I
yesterday.
guess that happened. Well, that happened probably a month ago. But
All
yeah,
right.
those things happen. Who knows why the system wanted to twirl a light in front of me,
Sure.
but maybe it wanted to see if I'd get zing up on aliens or spaceships or something. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I think these people see these. I'm not
Sure.
saying these people imagine them. They do see them.
Sure.
They're in their data stream. They're having this experience. They're talking to that alien. They pick up the little piece of detritus that the alien left. All of that's real. They're evidence. It's real. But what's real? Everything here is virtual. It's all computed. This is a virtual reality. So they've got some virtual detritus that they found in burnt grass and indents in their yard where the landing pads were. And that's trivial. In a virtual reality, those kinds of things are just as simple as anything.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, my son put a cheat code into Ages of Empires, and he drove around in a Mercedes Benz with nuclear weapons launchers in them. You needed a cheat code to get that, but if you knew the cheat code, there you were in prehistoric times in this game with a Mercedes Benz loaded with nuclear weapons. You could wipe out all of your enemies with the cheat code. So anything is possible in a virtual reality. If the rendering engine, the system, the computer that's computing it wants to put it there, it's there. and it's just as real as anything else that's there. It's all just information. So that's
thank
my
you,
take.
Tom.
That's my take on aliens.
Thank you. It's been eye-opening. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. I and MBT Events hope you like this video. If you do, then you should consider being a Patreon member, because Patreon members get early access to our special content. You will also be able to get your questions answered by me in special Q&A sessions, and most importantly, your contribution as a patron member will enable us to produce the content that you're looking for. So thank you.